Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. This week we're back in the greenhouse. We've got warmer weather heading our way, and we're starting to put out the seeding for our flowers, our summer flowers. The first ones that we're going to start today are a whole series of French marigolds, and we like using these guys because they've got a nice compact size, and they tend to really put out a lot of blooms through most of the course of the summer. Now, we saved a bunch of our own seed last fall, and it's a mix though, so it's not a specific variety. And I can't be certain exactly, what the colors are we're going to get out of these things. So I'm going to guess we're going to get quite a bit of a variety. The basic ones that we had planted last year, where I saved the seed from, was it's a French marigold called Strawberry Blonde, and then we had another one called Superhero Orange Flame. And the last one we had was Durango Tangerine. So those were the three varieties that we had last year. We have some seed left over, and from those years, they're good for a couple of 3 years. And I'm going to be planting those specifically, so I know I have those varieties. Our own saved seed is a mix, and it is hopefully they're going to come out, reasonably close. It's not going to be like turning it into some different kind of marigold that's, super big. I've never done these. These were from, I believe they were hybrid seeds. So it's going to be interesting to see what they revert back to. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to start some summer veg. First of our zucchini, since this stuff germinates pretty fast and grows fairly fast, we're going to be planting dungy, which is a green, kind of your classical zucchini, look. And then we're also going to plant some, another one called Maverick, to try that one out and see what it looks like. And a yellow summer squash called Tempest. So we're going to get kind of a bit of a variety of those guys. And then, as I kind of noted, run the clip here a little bit, we had some issues with our early plant tomato. I didn't harden them off good enough, I think, before I put them into the hoop house. And so they were susceptible to some ground critters that kind of ate. We lost 4 of my 15 plants that I put in there. And they were all from the Amish paste. And unfortunately, so we're going to be a bit behind on that. I used all of our Amish paste of our own seed. So I'm starting a bunch of new ones. So these guys are going to be definitely going to end up being late summer to early fall before they really come on and get big producing. So I had to reseed a bit from there, but it's early enough that we can still get away with it. So it should work out okay. Um, that was an important lesson learned. I should either put some kind of like little collar around them to prevent, critters from chewing on them, or like a little paper collar. And that probably, if they're okay now. I mean, they can't. They're tough enough. They've grown enough now that even though they still look pretty small, the stems have definitely toughened up, and whatever was attacking them has stopped. And I haven't lost any more than the 4. That was unfortunate. We also started a couple more extra cherry tomatoes, Red Pearl, which is a grape style tomato, and Washington, a classic red cherry tomato. And so those were from our own seed as well. So we got those guys going. And then the last thing I'm going to be planting from is our first of our I guess you call them snap beans. And they're going to be for our green beans for fresh eating and also canning. Our first round, and we plant Maxabel. That's kind of what we've kind of decided on for us. We've tried a bunch of different varieties, like Tobago and Jade, and we found actually the Maxabel. It's a French style bean. Produces the best and is the slowest going, kind of pithy, and you know how it is when a string bean or a snap bean gets old. These tend to be roughly about 6-inch beans when they're at their peak, and they grow pretty fast. We can get a crop of these guys going in about probably 2 months. So if I plant these guys now, which is today is the 2nd of May, we should be looking at our first harvest in early July, right around the 4th of July. And so we're going to be planting groups of these things, roughly about probably somewhere in the neighborhood of around 200 plants a shot for us. And we're going to put in 3 different plantings, which will take us. We can harvest green beans here all the way into October till frost. So these are bush style beans, so they're not a what you call indeterminate. So they're not going to grow like a pole bean and keep producing and keep blooming if they keep growing. These guys, they hit their terminal size. You get usually a pretty big flush and maybe a little bit of a second flush out of them, and then they're pretty much done. And so what we're going to do is just do multiple successions of that, and that will give us more than enough. On the zucchini front, we're not going to do multiple successions on. I did that last year, and what I found was, if you take good harvesting off a zucchini plant, it'll just keep on producing. And we had so much zucchini. Everybody has so much zucchini. And so we're just going to do like a half dozen plants, which is probably way too much again, but just to make sure that we kind of got a smattering of the yellows and the greens and the couple of varieties that we're going to be planting. So that's for this week. Next week, we're going to be doing a lot more flower seeds. We've got sunflowers to plant next week, zinnias to get started. So, because roughly we're in that transition zone where our nighttime temperatures are still in the 40s and sometimes even dip down into the high 30s. Last night, I think it was 36 here, so really mid 30s. Zinnias don't do well in that kind of environment, but if I start them next week, it's about 10 days to transplant, and that'll put it near mid to late May, and we should be well into the getting like somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 degrees at night, which is perfect. If zinnias, what our experience here is, with cool nights and warm days, the zinnias just don't thrive very well when you transplant them in. And if your nighttime temperatures are below 50, they just kind of sit there and turn yellow and then end up being slug bait. So that's kind of where we're heading with that. And then we're also going to be doing, in Tunnel 2, which is our Janam compost experiment. At that point, we should be finished with that, and we're going to start planting directly some of our dried beans, and so that's kind of coming up. So we've got a lot of veg to get started and a lot of flowers to get started. So that's what I kind of wanted to just kind of update you guys with, what we're doing. Everything is going to go in our 6-packs. We, tend to use these guys more. We used to use soil blocks a lot. I think I've talked about this before, but these guys, the nice thing about a 6-pack is that you will, it's just the right size for a dibble stick, and they don't tend to dry out like soil blocks do. And we got a little bit better control of things. So let's get started planting these guys. And I want to show you also too, while I'm busy getting things set up, check out the just little short clips I did on the status of things down in the tunnel. I think you might find it interesting. So the peas are doing really well. As you can see, a lot of blossoms on here. So I think we're not going to fertilize anymore at this point. These guys are really starting to get ready to produce big time. So, well, another thing is kind of mixed at this point. There are the tomatoes early planting. I put in 15 tomato plants, and I ended up getting damage to some of them. I lost 4 out of the 15 they got hit by either a cutworm or they could have been wood lice that just chewed at the stem. And so what I've got is some gaps that I'm going to have to fill back in. I've reseeded some extra Amish paste. That's the ones I seem to have lost, and so that'll fill in the gap at a later date. I think the carrot project overall is working out okay.
It looks like I've got a few of them that are really pretty weak and kind of not really doing as good as they should, but then I got other ones that are really doing really well. And I kind of go back to, I think my biggest problem was that I didn't put enough covering dirt or soil over the carrots, and that I made the holes bigger because you see, I got some that are just not thriving very well at all. And so out of the 60, I'm probably going to get maybe about 50 that are, really good. I've got another round coming, so we'll see what happens. If I'll try to do some things differently, I made bigger holes in the bottom of the egg carton so that the roots can get out better, and we'll see if that helps.
All right, so we're back. Gonna plant 2 trays of our beans and ultimately 2 trays of our French marigolds. The French marigolds will be 1 tray of specific by variety, and then 1 tray of our mix. Now the mix is every tray holds 72 possible plants, and then for the zucchinis, we're just going to be doing a few 6 packs of each variety. Take the best and leave the rest, so to speak. So the beans are really pretty simple to plant. I got them. I got the 6 packs all dibbled out. And what you want to do is they want to be about an inch deep into the. So it's you're trying to shoot for like the midpoint of the cell, and that way there's good enough cover to it. And then typically we're putting 1 seed per dibble, and that will give us 72 plants per tray, and these guys will germinate. I'm not going to put the heat on these guys because I think we're warm enough in here, particularly during the day. And I don't know, if we get too cold at night, I just turn the space heater on, and that way I can keep the main temperature in here uh, at least, probably 45, 50 degrees. So I'm not too worried about the nighttime temperatures. And the only reason I'm kind of not putting the heat mat on these guys is because my past experiences is they tend to germinate pretty fast this time of year on their own anyway. And once we get all the bean seeds put in, what we're going to do is put a little vermiculite over the top. And I use vermiculite over the top of just about everything I plant. And the reason behind it is it's a great way of kind of breaking up the possibility of getting algae growing on the top. And so it kind of cuts back on fungal problems. That at least that's been my experience on it. Doesn't get rid of it 100%, but it does a pretty good job of keeping things suppressed. The mix we're using is it's a peat based mix, but it has very little nutrients in it in terms of other than some minerals. There's no nitrogen based like manures or things into it, because what I found is that when you mix in like a commercial potting mix that usually has some kind of form of manure in it, it does great for plants that are already up, but for germinating seeds, it tends to I tend to get poorer germination. And so what I'm have always done here is, and we even did this when we were raising flowers commercially, is plant in a pretty benign mix that is just mostly compost and peat, and with perlite for aeration, and then the using the vermiculite on top as a way of suppression and for fungus diseases and things like that. And that's about it. And once they germinate, now that's a different story. Once they germinate, then we begin the fertilizing process, and we use liquid fertilizers. We use the Jadam liquid fertilizer, and I tend to use the generic grass-based, weed-based one. I'd like to use my oldest fertilizers first. So if I have stuff that's more than a year old, I will use that first. And then I use with these guys, because they're in a small cell, I use low dilution. I use like a 1:100 dilution. And what I do with this is I'll hit them at least once a week. Uh, but like beans as an example, they're going to grow pretty fast. Once they germinate up, they're going to be within probably a week putting on their first true leaves. And as soon as I see that first true leaf, that's the point in time when I'm going to transplant these guys to the ground. I'm not going to let them grow long in the potting mix here, just long enough just to get to size and get them in the soil itself. That kind of holds true with just about everything we plant. We kind of take that tact with it. If we're once the plant is up, then it can take the fertilization. But yeah, definitely fertilizing when you're trying to get them germinated. I think it's particularly true with flower seeds. It really just kind of tends to retard germination rates. And that's about it. I'll just do the whole thing here, and that's about it. So we're going to do ultimately 3 trays of the beans, 2 trays of the French marigolds, and then 4 6-packs of 1 6-pack each of the various zucchinis. And that's going to kind of wrap things up for today. So this isn't a super long video. Just kind of wanted to say, what are we doing at this point? And we're really going to be ramping up a lot more for the summer garden here, particularly with flowers over the next several weeks. And I think this year too, once we also going back to tunnel 2, where we got the Jadam compost situation going, once we peel that back, we're going to be pretty close to putting in squashes and things like that. So another 2 weeks, I'll be planting the first pumpkins and the winter squash. I don't want to go too early on the winter squash. I know some people really push it, but if the squash is ready sooner, then I get less time in storage in the winter. So I want to kind of time it for my pumpkins and squash to come on in late September, early October. That way, once they're ripened up at that point, they can harden off in a couple of weeks in mid-October, and then I get much better storage through the winter. If I plant them too early, they'll do well, but I'll end up with pumpkins near the end of August or early part of September, and that storage life for me then becomes shortened. So I may not have squash or pumpkins to eat in that February and March timeframe, and that's kind of what I'm always shooting for. So we're going to be doing more and more seeding here, and we've got to just kind of keep things moving. The tunnels are really ready to go, and we got some more work out to do in the outside garden too, to kind of get things moving along in that aspect. So I want to thank you guys for watching today, and as always, stay safe out there, and we'll catch you guys on the next video. Hope your gardens are going well. Stay safe. We'll see you later. Bye bye.